Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Trade the Chain. It is Monday, May 10th, and we are all having fun because we got ETH skyrocketing. I'm confused. Wasn't Doge supposed to do that? Did he talk about ETH on SNL instead of Doge? Is this an Elon Musk game? What's going on?
I was watching the Canelo Alvarez fight. I have no idea.
Oh my God. We're going to talk about Ethereum, obviously hitting its all-time high, and not only hitting it, but just bashing it out of the park. Ryan is extremely happy. He's our resident ETH maxi. Also, why, Doge didn't really do anything. So we're going to hit the big boards. It's going to be a fun day. It's kind of throwing things together as it comes our way, as a lot has happened over the last 48 hours. But I'm here with Monty and CJ as usual, our crypto analyst from marketrebellion.com. And I will now hand it off to Ryan to take away the legal.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. This is just a reminder that all content provided by Trade the Chain and Market Rebellion is strictly for educational and informational purposes only. Absolutely none of this is investment advice. Do not listen to us. Trade the Chain is brought to you by TradeTheChain.com, a global community of traders across 23 time zones. That's all of them, people. That's where everyone lives. That other one is just uninhabited, as I keep harping on. They're all ages, all abilities, all backgrounds, and all using AI-driven sentiment indicators and actionable alerts to help them beat the market. If you, too, want to trade like a crypto insider, head on over to TradeTheChain.com and check us out.
And then moving over to marketrebellion.com/crypto. This is Monty and myself in our community at Market Rebellion. With us, you get weekly trade ideas with entries, exits, and stop losses, access to our macro portfolio allocations, a pro charting platform, a trading education curriculum, and an elite community of traders all throughout the world, and much more. If you'd like to try it out, you can go to marketrebellion.com/crypto and get your first month trial for just $1 at marketrebellion.com/crypto. We appreciate that, guys. We also have a mobile app as well for Apple users. But heading down to the Trade the Chain dashboard, we've had such hourly bearish sentiments on most assets, but we're starting to see that flip and change. And Binance is one of the first I've seen that's done that. So interesting and rather noteworthy there. Anything you guys want to bring up here before we get into the more in-depth analysis?
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
No, you first, Ryan. I like the pink shirt, by the way.
Thank you. Everyone was watching SNL Saturday night, I guess, in the crypto world. And, there's things outside of crypto that are also enjoyable. Canelo Alvarez fight was great. He was losing, so he found a way to win. Excellent fight. It was awesome. And, it's good to just see other things that aren't only crypto, I guess.
What about that Kentucky Derby, huh? The whole scandal unfolding there.
Oh, and they let the trainer announce that the horse had steroids in it. What's that about? How do you let that happen? So the way that the Canelo Alvarez fight ended that I thought was crazy was he broke his opponent's eye socket. He basically shattered the dude's eye, and that's how the fight ended when he was already losing the fight. That's the first time I've ever seen someone have their eye socket broken. That was crazy.
Wow, that's a brutal injury. Holy
really
cow.
This guy leaned right into an uppercut. Just really bad luck. It just didn't work out for him.
I hope somebody NFTs it. Sorry, we're not talking. I also just want to say, it's been a week now. I completely understand that my audio, my video, and everything else about me sucks. And I apologize. But moving to the Caribbean, you gotta, it comes in stages. And I'm working on this week building out the studio upstairs so that I can be normal. So don't tune out to my tinny crap ass voice, okay? That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm working on that as well. I'll soon be
Many apologies.
Yeah, I'll be in a regular room soon. I won't have my whole living room monopolizing the apartment from my wife and son. So,
yeah.
For those of us who have our setups configured,
have your lives figured out? Yes.
Grown-ups.
I want to get you guys' opinion on this one first before we go into Bitcoin. This is a chart we talked about this morning, but what a milestone for the cryptocurrency industry. The collective market cap is now greater than 2.5 trillion. or the collective value of the US currency in circulation.
Yes.
So
That's
does this
cool.
mean we've done it?
I have an interesting comment on this, CJ, and I'm happy you brought this up, because back in 2017, when XRP was taking off past $3, I was told more than by enough people that, you know, XRP is it could hit $20. And I was like, guys, you understand that's more than the circulating supply of money. How's everybody going to get their money out if they cash? So my question to you is, what if everybody took a run on crypto? There wouldn't be enough cash in US currency.
Well, they're not all based in the US. And also, you're looking at more than one asset, right? If this were Bitcoin that surpassed the US dollar, or ETH when it eventually flippens Bitcoin, surpassed the US dollar, I think that would be more monumental than just having the top 300 coins, you know, surpassing the US dollar. It's cool. It's a nice milestone, but I don't really think it means all that much in this moment.
That's true. When Shiba Coin bottoms out later on, that'll fall back in line, that graph.
Well, yeah, but I think it's still a big deal because, you know, I was talking about this earlier on our show, but, you know, crypto traders, they don't tend to take their money out of crypto and park it in fiat. If you take your money out of Shiba Coin, you're typically looking upstream into investments like ETH or Bitcoin. So like, look at how parabolic that chart went. Forget about the US dollar, forget about how much that's worth. If you just look at how parabolic the value of the top 300 assets in cryptocurrency has gone in the last year, and then compare that with even the price action of Bitcoin and Ethereum, it far exceeds that. So the way I see it is when, like you said, Alex, some of these coins like Shiba Coin and Doge inevitably lose their momentum and, you know, the retail money starts pulling out, I think it's going to go into ETH and Bitcoin, and we're going to see those really bolstered by all that excess capital.
Glad you bring up capital flow, because we're going to talk more about that as well. There's more charts about
CJ,
that.
are you going on a tirade right now? Because I'm going to sit back and listen, enjoy the ride.
I learned to stop doing that, but
before you do, Monty, it sounds like you're saying ETH's rally has a lot more room to run because capital is going to be redeployed, perhaps. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I actually, you know, we were joking around before the show, but I honestly think that by the end of the week, ETH will be at 5K. Oh. I don't think this rally is done. The volume looks strong. Sentiment is still great. And, you know, there's still a lot of capital to be pulled out of these altcoins that are downstream that don't merit their current market cap. ETH deserves that market cap. It has such tremendous utility. Shiba Coin, Dogecoin don't deserve these billion-dollar valuations, and the market will correct itself.
Interesting.
CJ has some thoughts around correct markets.
So I'm going to start with one of our favorites, the Pi cycle top. I know a lot of criticism. This has been on a lot of people's minds, but check out where we are right now and where we experienced that most recent intersection. So the first top essentially has been called by this in the market cycle. The fact that we're actually seeing it confirm and follow the previous pattern, it's pretty interesting. I think it could end up looking something like this, but with a much less harsher drawdown. There was a much higher implied volatility in Bitcoin back in these days, which is what led it to that 80% correction in 2013. I don't think we're going to see that bad of a correction, but we might have some type of super cycle that ends up looking like a giant bull flag or something with two legs up, because where we are now is just very similar in terms of how overheated the market is. Like when you talk about capital flow, in 2017, Bitcoin peaked December 14th, and then the altcoins like Ethereum continued to rally onto new all-time highs, like XRP. They didn't top for another 3 or 4 weeks into January and February, when that capital went out of Bitcoin and went to others. So that's what we're starting to see now. We're starting to see Bitcoin lose dominance we're starting to see that capital flow initially from Bitcoin and Ethereum into those risk-on assets. And if we go to the weekly chart and look at Bitcoin dominance, we are on a sequential buy 9. This has been a very prolonged rally in the sense that the altcoins have just continued to go up for like 10 weeks straight and knock Bitcoin off its pedestal. So I think that we might see a little bit of a rebound from Bitcoin dominance in the sense that, you know, it kind of acts like a fear index. It kind of acts like a VIX in the sense that when we have bullish momentum in Bitcoin dominance, pretty much the entire market sells off. It gives back a lot of the profits that it had seen, and we kind of go into a shorter term correction. So there's interesting stuff there. You know, all of the noise that's going on in the market right now, whether it be Elon on SNL, whether it be, you know, these vulgar cryptocurrencies with names that keep going up, you know, Doge Elon or whatever, it just makes me very, very cautious and gives me a unusual feeling in my stomach. Some of the other charts I want to get to, this one's actually pretty bullish because it suggests that we're actually seeing more demand from collective OTC desks, which means that institutional investors or demand evidently is still increasing, despite the fact that we've gone to near parabolic levels. Now, Glassnode says that these are only about, I'd say, 3 OTC desks. Let me just make sure. I want to.
Really, they did this based on 3 OTC desks?
Yes. So I don't know how reliable you can make this claim.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
But like, you look at that, right? And then you look at the CoinShares report out today, where you have, you know, inflows into crypto funds, into hedge funds dropping off quite a bit, you know, on a week by week basis. So institutional demand isn't quite there as people would have you believe. I guess at least as that chart would have you believe. It may return. There's no reason why it shouldn't, but it just isn't. I don't think it's quite following the assumptions and expectations that other people had for this stage of the market.
I'm glad you bring that up, Ryan, because I have another chart down here as well that I want to go through about it. But when you look at this one, this highlights accumulation. Obviously, this is bullish accumulation. A lot of people realizing profits. And this is how the capital has basically rotated throughout the space. We see it going to things like Ethereum and like those alts. And now it's starting to come back, or it's starting to bottom, at least in the short run. The one that really scares me is this one with demand in both institutions and in retail. And you can see Binance's retail platform or demand is growing way faster than Coinbase's institutional demand. So the smart money, I guess what we would say, the institutional demand is just not there based on, you know, the past month or two and that data. So it kind of makes me worried. This is another one when we have, this kind of proves the capital, kind of what Monty was talking about earlier about how people take profits from Ether and Bitcoin and put them into other things. This shows us that a lot of the profits that have been spent in Bitcoin through UTXOs have essentially rotated into Ethereum after they've been spent. So people have taken a lot of profit from Bitcoin and decided to speculate on Ethereum as a result of it. So all of these things, especially this one, it's a little bit concerning, especially when we consider all of the retail hype, the fact that we have more web traffic visits on cryptocurrency exchanges than ever before. I'm not saying the bull market's over or we have to correct by a massive amount. I'm just saying that a correction at this point in the market cycle would not seem unhealthy by any means. I don't know. It just seems to be getting overheated, or maybe I'm wrong and this is just what, you know, mass adoption looks like.
let's say we have that correction. All right. You were talking before the show about how you don't think it would be as severe as some of the corrections we've had in the past. Where do you think we might net out? Let's say with Bitcoin and ETH, since they're the two largest assets.
The first thing I go to is the weekly chart, especially with both of these. I think that Ethereum is still pretty bullish on the weekly chart, and Monty's prediction of 5K by the end of the week actually may come to fruition. I think there is merit to that. But yeah, let me jump in and give you guys a closer look. These are the critical levels for Bitcoin, really. You know, this Fibonacci level at 45K roughly is very important. That's where we pulled back to essentially from our current price levels in February. And that's when we fell very repeatedly. And ever since, we've been testing this range and have not been able to break out of it. I think if we break out of this range at 60K and can close above it strongly, then the bull market has a high probability of continuing into 70 or possibly even 80K. But we may test down first, you know, based on a lot of those macro fundamental charts that we just looked at. So it's a little puzzling. It's a little concerning, but I want to go to ETH as well. So ETH is in a much different state in the sense that it really is postured very strongly. It's not hitting a sell 9 until next week. A lot of times we've seen those sell 9s act as catalysts on the way up. So the $5,000 resistance level that Monty points to is pretty accurate with this top Fibonacci level at roughly 4,900. So we could wick up past there and then close below it as it acts as resistance going into next week, because we're still bullish on the green 8. We still have increasing volume down below. So there's nothing in the trend that it's telling me now on the weekly chart that Ethereum has to go down. It's just that, you know, 3,500, you know, even 2,200, I think we could go down to and still be in a bull market with ETH. So yeah, I mean, it's just
wow, 2,200. I mean, when you look at the number of transactions on the ETH blockchain, that's also in the Glassnode post that you were showing those charts. I mean, we're well above the 2017 peak, right? So people are using ETH at record levels, and you have contract calls up, you have value settled up, and Deribit just put out what was the value of that contract that they put out that everyone went like crazy over? Was it a 10K ETH contract? Or was it like a 50K ETH contract? I forget.
But it was a 10K.
10K? I just don't see ETH dropping down to 2,200. Sentiment is high, both long-term and on the daily. Tweet volume is up, trading volume is up. Everything is there to support it. DeFi total value locked is doubled since March. Everything is there to support ETH's price floor. I don't think it'll not correct. It has to correct. That's normal and healthy, but like 2,200 seems a bit excessive.
exactly what an ETH maxi would say.
This guy. No, if it's going to circle the drain, I mean, I'll stand there and explain why, at least from my point of view. But I don't think 2,200 is realistic.
Listen, folks, Ryan finally made a lot of money for once in crypto. No, I'm just joking.
Every dog has its day, and this is finally mine.
Exactly.
In all seriousness, though, I do think 2,200 is definitely a stretch. I think that when you look at some of the moving averages, they more line up at like 2,500 or 2,700. And I don't think we're like, if we seriously go below that, then that marks pretty much the end of the bull market, in my opinion.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, 3,000 seems reasonable. That's just fingers crossed.
Listen, you know, all this talk about Ethereum and where it is, where it might go. I mean, my biggest concern in this market right now, quite literally, is all the shit coins that are just popping out and being invented for people to buy into and gain super scale in a velocity that's never been seen before. I just feel bad for so many investors that are going through this like just dark space of crypto right now. So I don't know. That's my worries.
It's tough, you know, it's definitely tough for the mass adoption because you don't want people getting burned. It just makes them more reluctant down the road to get into Bitcoin or into cryptocurrency in general. But, I think that all this mania around all these altcoins is really what's detracting, or really what's stopping Bitcoin from going above 60K. I just want to quickly go back to this point CJ made. We've been kind of stuck trading sideways since we tested this new all-time high of 61K all the way back here on March 13th. And, look at this. We're below where we were on March 13th. That was a while ago now, almost 2 months ago. You'd be hard pressed to go back and find another 2-month period where we've traded, this sideways. And I think the answer to why this is happening is pretty obvious. If you look at the ETH chart or a lot of other altcoin charts and look at, a price line on this same day, the speculation has just been elsewhere right now. I don't think that necessarily is a bad thing for Bitcoin. I don't mind Bitcoin trading sideways right now. I don't mind people putting all their money into alts, into Ethereum, into even more downstream assets. You can find a lot of other charts that are even more parabolic from the 13th on. So I think it makes sense that Bitcoin isn't getting a lot of the speculation right now. But to me, it just seems like it's inevitable that a time is going to come when, ETH cools off and when all these DeFi assets cool off, like Maker, Comp, Aave, those will really start cooling down. And a lot of those profits will flow back into Bitcoin. And, that just seems like an inevitability to me. So although it's rough to see people entering the space with, Doge or Shiba coin, whatever, and then losing their money, at the same time, I think it's great that this capital is coming into crypto in general. I said Doge. The dog's acting up.
He's a chew. Does he have a chew toy?
He doesn't like me trashing Dogecoin. But,
looking at the Bitcoin chart, that looks like the first time that Bitcoin's actually acted like a store of value.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what is going to become valuable right now.
Yeah.
Like CJ talked about that implied volatility back in 2013 and 2017. Bitcoin's kind of lost that now, but it's still there in the crypto space, just elsewhere. So Bitcoin's finally, I think, starting to serve that purpose of a store of value. And when people start to get burned by the volatility, instead of making money on it in these downstream alts, they're going to look to that stability in Bitcoin.
I completely agree with you, Monty. And, I love seeing the volatility leave Bitcoin and go into Ethereum-based assets and other chain assets, because that's where the excitement is. I just have a problem with crappy coins that newbies get, burnt with. That being said, I do want to go, Ryan, to you to talk about the flippening. Is there a chance? Is there now a more likely chance of a Bitcoin flip happening in your mind? We talked about this over the last, let's call it 4 to 6 weeks. We've had a couple episodes where we talked about it. But you look at the market cap overall of crypto, we are now nearly 2.5 trillion, which is a half $1 trillion from just 10 days ago. Okay. You look at that, and then you look at the market cap of Ethereum now compared to Bitcoin, there's a gap that's closing in. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there is a gap, right? And, so right now ETH is at 483 billion, 483.5 billion, and Bitcoin's at, just over 1 billion. If ETH doubles in price this year and Bitcoin continues through this kind of max pain sideways trading scenario, it doesn't seem entirely implausible. I mean, ETH could hit 10K this year. I'm not making a price prediction. I'm not saying it's going to, but like when you look at all the fundamentals and you look at where people are getting their, data points where they're making their price predictions, it seems a lot more reasonable than Bitcoin hitting 400K anytime soon.
Well, let me ask you this, Ryan. Here's an interesting one. You mentioned that we're at 483 billion or so, around that neighborhood in market cap for Ethereum, and we're just over $1 trillion in Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if expected, there's a lot of price predictions out for 10K ETH. If 10K ETH happens and Bitcoin doesn't move up or down, just sideways trades, what happens?
That's the flipping.
Ethereum flips it.
Yeah, which would be remarkable. Wouldn't that be the first time that any coin, I think that would have to be the first time any coin surpassed Bitcoin in value, even if it's only temporary. You know, it would go back down, of course, because people would profit take at that point. But that could be like a flag in the ground where people say, or traders trade up to that point and they get it to that point. Because you often see altcoins when they're shy of like 100 million or 500 million, these like tentpole valuations, they'll trade up to that before eventually receding on profit taking. If you can get ETH up to like 800 million, it wouldn't be unreasonable to see it go past, or 800 billion, it wouldn't be unreasonable to see it go past $1 trillion. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, the only top, the only excitement with any flippening that ever happened was the XRP flippening, where it held the number 2 spot for a couple of weeks. That excited a few people. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's a lot more plausible right now, especially with what, CJ and everybody's been saying with the divergence of correlation, right? So if you keep having that volatility flipping over to the altcoins and the altcoins taking off, hey, who knows? Maybe in a month, 2 months, 3 months, we see ETH at number 1. It doesn't mean anything against Bitcoin either, people. I mean, the Ethereum is a different animal that we've all pointed out than Bitcoin. Projects are built on it. It's unlimited. So if it does flip, it doesn't mean anything negative whatsoever.
One thing that could keep that from happening, though, if ETH doubles in value, that's going to make gas fees ridiculous, right? And I can see,
don't even talk about. I hate gas.
I can see people
from ETH.
Okay, I can see, I can see people revolting over that. I mean, if you have gas fees going up to like $200-300 higher, like that could be.
Brian, tell me what happens then. Tell me there's not like an Ethereum commission to complain to where they get, I mean, tell me what happens.
They go to Binance Chain. I mean, Binance Chain, it's a few dollars, right? They go elsewhere where you can still transact in these projects, you can still stake, you can still do all of the things, a lot of the things anyway that people do on ETH, and that benefits BNB coin, perhaps. And maybe BNB coin also rises.
And hence, not all projects are built on AVAX or BSC or Polkadot or any of those things. That's why I'm a big believer in Zero, because if you don't have the cross-chain functionality, then to your point, everybody goes to BSC or something, and Ethereum assets fall because the average investor is, let's say, doing $500 or $1,000 swaps, and they're paying half of that to trade. That's all garbage. I'm getting nasty out of my studio.
Seems a bit much.
Yeah. All right.
So I was talking to a friend yesterday who's kind of an OG in crypto, not a Bitcoin maximalist or anything, but he's done well. And he said, I just think it's part of it's the part of the market cycle where Bitcoin reminds everybody who's boss. And when you look at that Bitcoin dominance chart and that 9 on the weekly, that could suggest some rough sailing ahead for Ethereum and a lot of profit taking. I mean, when you consider how far it's diverged from the mean already, I just don't see it going to 10K and flipping Bitcoin it's going to take like 4 years, in my opinion, for either Cardano or ETH. It's going to take another market cycle for that amount of capital to flip Bitcoin. But I'm not going to say it's not possible. I do think it is possible.
I don't think it'll be permanent. It won't be permanent, at least not for the foreseeable future. It could just pop up one day, just wicks up and then goes back down again. I don't think
Ryan just wants to have his moment. That's all. He's not asking for a permanent.
Man. Let me have my moment.
All right, guys, so real quickly, before we head out, everybody
hold on. Monty.
Wait, oh, Jesus.
Monty's going to give his opinion on the ETH flipping.
My opinion on the ETH flipping. Yeah, I completely agree with you, CJ. I don't see it happening right now, but in the next market cycle, it's definitely possible. When more people are building on it. I think Ryan made a good point about the gas fees, and that's natural. If the gas fees go too high, people will go off chain and the price will go back down and the gas fees will go back down. So, I just don't think the ETH infrastructure is ready for that sort of demand yet, but by the next market cycle, it could be. That being said, we've seen a lot stranger things happen this year alone. So, I do think ETH's looking a bit overextended, but it doesn't look like it's due for a correction just yet when you consider the fact that there's still assets downstream that are pumping. So I'm sticking to my theory that a lot of that capital downstream will flow from those assets first into ETH and then from ETH into Bitcoin. So I don't think ETH is topped yet for this market cycle.
My man.
All right, so everybody, I'm looking at the 1 hour projection on Trade Chain here, and there's some, FTM. Does anybody trade in FTM here, Phantom? It's kind of projecting on charts. But give everybody one project that you're following this week or this week, next week, a short-term project that you think is good, that has some pop to it, that you would be excited to see gaining some price action. We'll start with Monty.
Okay. I'll start with one that actually popped this morning. It was, for a while, it was top 10 in Trade the Chain. And, there's I don't really have a lot of fundamental reasons for being excited about this project for the next week. But, the price action I saw this morning and this is current market cap, I think justifies it. And that is CKB, or Nervos Network. So as you can see, in the past 24 hours, this thing absolutely exploded with 36% change, and relative tweet volume plus 307%, relative trading volume up 800%. This is an asset that's listed on Voyager, still has a very low price point of 3 cents. And, I think we're seeing assets pump for no reason other than having a low price point and having a dog in their name. I think CKB, it's listed on legitimate exchanges. It still has a very low market cap. I think it's one that could maybe continue to pump throughout the week. So I'll be watching this one closely.
I couldn't, CKB, it was I believe the last new listing on Voyager, if I'm not mistaken. And it did come in low. And you know how we like to scour we're like the bottom feeders when we're looking for what retail's going to jump into. The problem is, you mentioned you couldn't get anything fundamentally on CKB that, put you behind it. I can't either. For the things you say, the low price, the big exchanges on, yes, but I actually absolutely still have no idea what they do in all seriousness. And if anybody does, I challenge them to put it in the comments. Ryan, your short-term gain pick of the week.
Cardano.
We are on the same page for once, and I've never.
Wow, really? I think we're on it for different reasons, though. The reason I like Cardano is because you can now trade it on Börse Stuttgart, which is the second largest exchange. It's like the NASDAQ of Germany.
I didn't open my account there yet.
But a lot of other people did, and you have access to it, and also XLM. But I think not Polkadot. Sorry, I've got unicorns on the brain. Cardano. People are actually building on the Cardano blockchain. It's actually happening. They had that announcement about what's going on in Africa. You have a few other things. Charles Hoskinson has somehow been a little bit less combative and abrasive over the past few days. Things are looking up for Cardano. And
it's funny you should say that, because I actually think there's a correlation possibly somewhere in there between his abrasiveness and the price of ADA. So we'll see. He loves to call people out on Twitter, but no, you're right. There's a little bit of momentum building behind Cardano, and I think that the ADA holders and lovers of the world are finally getting to see some of their fruits materialize.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have both daily and long-term sentiment, well above 70 on Trade the Chain. Tweet volume's up 50%, trading volume's up almost 21%. I think, there's a case here to be made that Cardano might be getting the momentum behind it to actually make a meaningful push higher, perhaps even past, $2.
Okay, all right. CJ, my man, what is your short-term pick?
Sorry, I'm just looking through Charles Hoskinson's recent tweets, and there's some that are still a bit angry.
A little fiery.
He's an angry man, but he's been a little less angry as often as he used to be. I don't know. It feels like there's a change in mood on his end, perhaps a little. Maybe he's making an effort. Someone whispered in his ear. I mean, he's still a very angry man, but he seems like he's not angry as often at everyone. You know, he's not just screaming into the void like he always does.
All right.
Sounds a bit familiar to me, but anyways, what we look at on Trade the Chain, or if we look at Trade the Chain, what I'm excited about short term is XLM. Again, today we're seeing it at the top, number 6 when it comes to trading volume, up over 156%. The other one I do like in terms of trading volume, it hasn't broken critical levels yet, but the volume is slowly, subtly creeping up, and that is Ocean Protocol. It's another one of the low caps on Voyager that you can trade. And then, yeah, just Zero. That's one of the, I mean, that's down to like over 500. I think it's 530th on CoinMarketCap now. Like, talk about bottom feeders, Alex.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm a self-proclaimed bottom feeder then.
Yeah.
Okay.
This will be
Same here. You know, also XLM's trading volume going up might be a result of it also being traded on Börse Stuttgart. My German isn't quite what my French is, but Börse Stuttgart, if that's how you say it. You know, perhaps the trading volume going up is a product of that as well. It hasn't affected Cardano as much as it did XLM, but who knows?
Well, I think XLM and Cardano being put on exchanges such as that, Ryan, are important. One, XLM is long been the other side of the fence contender for like XRP, right? And so you have, I know a bunch of institutional guys that like XLM and a couple that hang on to XRP. So I think it being listed on a very professional exchange like that is a good thing. Also, Cardano, you see a lot of trust applications. And by trust, I mean like, like the Grayscale type trusts, a lot of ADA Cardano applications being set in. I think that, we had that Ethereum treasury by that company. I think Cardano is maybe one of those 5 or 6 investments that I will call out that companies may invest in the near future. So having it in a professional German exchange such as that one I think gives it credence. But
Indeed.
All right, that's it, folks. We, first of all, thanks for bearing with us. This was like, now that, I'd like to call it a paella of a show where you threw everything into a pot and see where it went. But I appreciate you listening to us banter about what our thoughts are in the market today. Ryan and I are gearing up. We're going to be more professional very shortly with our audio visual. We deeply apologize for that. So thanks for sticking through with us through the transition mode. Don't forget to visit marketrebellion.com/crypto and tradethechain.com. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.